Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Michael J.
How you doing today in this bonus episode of the Top Level Podcast?
Pretty groovy, particularly given that it's preview season. And, well, the previews for, obviously, this is a slightly different type of preview. It's one near and dear to my heart.
Well,
how you doing?
Two near and dear to our collective hearts. I'm doing great. I mean, I'm always doing great when we are doing a podcast because this is on the short list of one of my favorite things to do. You're one of my favorite people to hang out with. But in particular...
Flattery will get you everywhere.
In particular, Modern Masters, 2017 edition, we have been granted... If there are two cooler cards to have been granted, I don't know what they could possibly be. I think we are just on the top of Blake Rasmussen's list in terms of people who get good preview cards, because ours are the best.
These are, one of these is very near and dear to my heart, and I know the other is near and dear to your heart, and I know we both love both.
I agree. And I would actually go so far to say it's the one that is not near and dear to my heart. I played only ever in one tournament, and I won that tournament, so it's actually pretty near and dear to my heart too.
So let's start with your side of the equation.
All right, my side of the equation is Compulsive Research. Compulsive Research is a sorcery originally from the original Ravnica. It's 2 and a blue. Target player draws 3 cards. That player discards 2 cards. Dun, 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 unless he or she discards a land card. So, this is like a card that is great at digging through your deck to find key cards, and it's a great graveyard enabler, and you can even kill people with it.
Yeah, I mean, the last 3, how many you got left? Oh, you got 2 left? Why don't you draw 3?
I have killed an opposing Firemane Angel deck with this, and I have filled my graveyard with many a Firemane Angel. And I would point out, there was a time when I was a non-believer. I was just like, I'm going to be the Think Twice guy. Think Twice is an instant. It's always card advantage. I can go 2-3, draw. Compulsive Research, sometimes is card advantage, sometimes isn't card advantage. But your apprentice, good friend to both of us, Mark Kerberholtz, was like, Michael J. Flores, what are you thinking? You are under pressure. You need to draw yourself into a Wrath of God. And that man was correct. This card, 3 mana, it would get you to your Day of Judgment / Wrath of God, whatever you needed to keep yourself alive when you were under pressure. It just, phenomenal card for 3. If it were legal and standard, I would be glad to play it.
Dude, I missed that card. I really enjoyed it. I used to use that in a lot of the, like for instance, some of the 3 and 5, some of the various just random mid-rangey control deck type of stuff, from like a decade ago. It was a lot of fun playing some Compulsive Research in those decks. And that's not even that's not even speaking to the like Karoo experience.
Oh, yeah,
when you're bouncing like with the Azorius, Chancery.
Yeah, one of the things that was great in context, because this was from the original Ravnica, cards like Azorius Chancery or any of the Boros Garrison were all legal and standard at the time. So you could tap 3 and then play your Karoo, bounce a land back to your hand, cast Compulsive Research, and that could do a bunch of different things. You could have a spare land in your hand to discard to the Compulsive Research, so it'd be card advantage. And sometimes if you wanted to overdraw to 8 or more cards, you could do that, gain card advantage, and set up your graveyard at the same time, which doesn't seem like a logical string, I think, if you didn't play at the time, but it gave you a great deal of flexibility.
Yes. And there was lots of little things too. Speaking of filling your graveyard, I enjoyed just Compulsive Research. Now I have a land in my graveyard for my tarmogoyf.
Yeah. It's also, depending on the format, right? But it was a direct enabler to what was called the Japanimator back then, which you might guess from its name came from Japan. So they're the land of of Tsuyoshi Fujita and Kenji Samura. It was just a really convenient card that you would use to put, let's say, an Angel of Despair in your graveyard and then follow up with a Zombify the next turn. That's like a 3/4, and it was miserable for your opponent.
That was Luis Scott Vargas and Paul Cheon's first real big breakout event. Was when they brought the Solar Flare was the other name for the Japanimator. Yes, they brought their Solar Flare deck to the U.S. and thrashed a national championships.
Yeah, that was a great breakout tournament for not only that pair of players, but for that deck. I mean, day 2 was just nothing but Solar Flares. This is U.S. Nationals, I want to say 2006. Does that sound right?
Yep.
So...
maybe 2007? I don't know. 2006. I think it was 2006.
No, the 2007 was the year that you won the standard portion, right?
It was always so confusing because Luis was just finishing top 8 of the Nationals all the time. So it's like trying to remember which one he finished which position is confusing.
So Paul won that year, right? Luis was top 8. Luis won the next year with the Arcanix, the Omnipotent deck, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You won standard that year, 2007, I want to say. With was it a Corlash Tarmogoyf deck?
Although I lost most of my game 1s, and my tournament went a lot better once I started sideboarding out all my Corlashes.
Don't say that about Corlash. You made me fall in love with Corlash.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't be in love with Corlash. All I'm saying is that I'm glad I realized to start sideboarding out all my Corlashes.
All right. Well, Compulsive Research is only 1.5. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say that Corlash deck was a pretty sweet 5 color. I mean, in its heart, it was a Grixis deck, but it also featured Tarmogoyf. It was like a weird Teachings Tarmogoyf deck.
That was where you made your break, right? As I recall,
my break,
your breakthrough, right? Like
my breakthrough,
the Tarmogoyf thing. Like that was my
breakthrough
in that deck.
Oh yeah, for that deck. Yeah, I came to New York, and
stayed at my house.
Yeah. I stayed with you, a little bit of gaming with you and Johnny, and I was like, man, I should play Tarmogoyf. I didn't get to the second part of the equation, which is now that I have Tarmogoyf, I don't need Corlash. Or all these all these lands that are like part swamp. Oh yeah,
in love with Corlash. You made me in love with Corlash. Do you remember there was the spell was instant was like B3
Beacon of Immortality?
No, the one that was B3 nug a creature for as many swamps as you have. You couldn't beat that if you were an aggro deck.
Oh yeah,
I love that stuff. That's why you want to play Corlash. So anyway, we had 2 previews this week, not just Compulsive Research.
Yes, Compulsive Research, very powerful. But there is always a greater power.
Oh my god. So, Cruel Ultimatum.
Woo-hoo! Cruel Ultimatum.
This is the Grixiest Grix that ever was.
Oh yes. This is as Grixis as it gets.
So, for those of you who aren't... Was this almost 10 years ago this came out? No. 8 years ago?
No. Yeah, it was like 8 years ago, roughly.
8 years ago. For those of you who were not into Magic the Gathering 8 years ago, there was a man, his name was Patrick Chapin, and he said, there's always a greater power, which is what it also says on Cruel Ultimatum.
No, that's what Nico Bolas said. I said Cruel Ultimatum will change everything.
And he was like, we got to play this card, and the rest of the world was like, you cray. 7?
Well, it's an unusual card.
7s, right?
It's an unusual card.
Care what the text is, we're not playing 7s. There was a certain elite deck designer. Boop.
No, it's not, dude. What I'm saying is the Cruel Ultimatum is the epitome of value, right? I mean, come on, man. You can't always know about what. How many is this? What do we ever end up settling on? Is this an 11 for one?
I can't count that high.
That's ridiculous.
This card is
not even funny.
Unreal. If you can manage to lose a game where you've cast this card, your opponent must have done something phenomenal.
It brings me back. It brings me back to like it's not just like Nassif winning Kyoto. It's like the amount of different Cruel Ultimatum experiences. Like for instance, actually getting to play Cruel Ultimatum and Cloud Thresher side by side To say nothing of the double white sweepers and cryptic commands.
I mean, might as well have some Vivid Lands, right? Vivid Lands Reflecting Pool.
But there were so many other types of Cruel Ultimatum decks, too.
I was the kind of person who was playing all Counter Squalls and Blightnings with my Cruel Ultimatum. All my cards were damaging you, even though I was ostensibly playing control cards, right?
Yeah,
that was
I really enjoyed your Grixis deck.
Like, I mean, everything is boom, take 3, take 2, take 5. And it's weird for the opponent. They're like, wait, you're playing the blue deck. Why am I taking so much damage? Yeah, that was the most enjoyable.
Dude, I really enjoyed the Cruel Ultimatum deck that Michael Jacob and I played in Amsterdam. The one that Paul Rietzel won, Hall of Famer Paul Rietzel won with that white, the white aggro deck designed by Gabriel Nassif, actually full circle. But that Grixis deck using Punishing Fire with Grove of the Burnwells, obviously, and then Cruel Ultimatum.
Was that a gift deck also? I'm sorry.
Jace the Mind Sculptor. Now it's like that deck had all the sweet stuff. It literally had Jace the Mind Sculptor, Cruel Ultimatum, Mystical Teachings, Punishing Fire.
Yes, yeah, that.
Mystical Teachings, Cruel Ultimatum, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Punishing Fire. I'm like, I'm in love.
What about the deck that you and Mark Herberholtz built for, I want to say, Nationals 2009? Cruel Ultimatum with Knucklevi? So it wasn't enough to be the Cruel Ultimatum deck, right? You were the Knucklevi guy.
Yeah, Herberholtz just, yeah. Yeah, he ended up top 8ing with the Cruel Ultimatum Knucklevi loop, as it were.
Yeah, so
that one,
was
speaking of Michael Jacob, though, man, Michael Jacob from actually won the national championships that year
with a red deck.
Running, yeah, being on the I guess I'll sacrifice a Demigod of Revenge, discard a Demigod of Revenge,
cast a Demigod of Revenge,
and then I'll cast a Demigod of Revenge. Yep. Let's see, you gained 5, so you're up to like 12.
Take 15.
Yep.
Demigod of Revenge was the best. How is that guy not heavily played in all the formats? He's busto.
How in the world are you going to describe a card that costs Rakdos, 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 and like is a 5/4? That's not busto.
5/4 haste.
Dude, like that's more busted than Reality Smasher with Eldrazi Temple.
I would just, well, no. It's also really restrictive on your land too. You can't play a Mutavault if you're.
Dude, I think that if Demigod of Revenge cost 4 colorless and a colorless, I guess 4 generic and a colorless,
you'd still pick Reality Smasher?
I think no. I would use Demigod of Revenge. Are you kidding? That sounds insane.
Demigod of Revenge, like I'm sure this has happened to you, where your opponent counterspelled it with wrong stack order.
I don't deal in all that stuff. Those were different times back then. I'm not going to judge the people that came from like weird places, but it's like there's nothing wrong with it. It's just I'm talking about the judges. The fact that they would set the rules up that way, not a fan. Fortunately, the cards are not being designed as so walk face first into a trap as they used to be. But Cruel Ultimatum, man. Cruel Ultimatum, there is always a greater power. I freaking love this card, man. Dude, why can't they just make more Cruel Ultimatum?
I think that there might be more Cruel Ultimatums, but we're in Standard anyway, we're playing such constricted time. That's the thing.
It's hard. Like, there's the new Cruel Ultimatum that sure doesn't beat a Felidar Guardian plus a Helirai.
You're like, if your back's against the wall to a Heart of Kiran on the turn 2, like, and you have to be able to build your deck in a way that you can consistently answer it, and that means that you never want to draw a card like this in your opening hand right now. I think that's part of it, but it sure is sweet. And my memories of this card playing in Standard were extraordinarily positive.
Oh yeah,
I think this is going to be really fun. I mean, Modern Masters 2017 people are going to draft this format too, right? I think
drafted Ultimatum. I'm a fan.
People will be very happy to draft Compulsive Research, which is going to be an uncommon. but it's going to help you draw into all your sweet cards in Modern Masters 2017.
Yes. Dude, this is looking like it's going to be a fun one. A lot of the Modern Masters have been fun to draft with. Or the different Masters, like Modern Masters, fun to draft with. And, so far, if we know that Compulsive Research and Cruel Ultimatum are two of the cards, it's got a 100% hit rate.
I agree. All right, so just a short little episode on this one. We are going to be back in less than 24 hours with our regularly scheduled episode, which will be awesome.
Yes, so check it out on toplevelpodcast.com or all of the other places.
So,
Patreon, Twitter, Facebook,
YouTube,
whatever, who knows?
Wherever it is.
Tune in.
Top Level Podcast. I'm
Patrick Chapin.
Goodbye.
Life didn't work so great. Tried to play dredge for jail or hate. Ghostly prison waiting for my untapped phase. Your core trapped in amber spaces state. Lost a lot of friends, got left behind. Had to find a way not to lose my mind. Trapped